Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza speak a secret mathematical language. This video uncovers the hidden geometry that connects humanity's earliest sacred sites, a cosmic code etched into stone by ancient builders across the globe. You will learn to see these iconic monuments not as separate ruins, but as interconnected pieces of a single, grand design. We will explore how a lost, unified knowledge system might have guided their construction, challenging everything we think we know about our past. What single idea could possibly link a stone circle in England to a pyramid in the Egyptian desert? By the end, your perspective on the ancient world will be fundamentally reshaped. How does the shape of a circle or a square hold such profound, universal power? A perfect circle drawn in the sand is one of humanity's oldest and most universal symbols. This simple shape, echoed in the sun and the moon, forms the very heart of sacred geometry. This is the idea that certain geometric forms and mathematical ratios hold a deep spiritual meaning, acting as a universal language that connects our world to something greater. From the philosophers of ancient Greece to the master builders of medieval Europe, visionaries saw these patterns as the fundamental blueprint of creation itself. Plato described a world soul woven from perfect geometric shapes, while centuries later, artisans constructed soaring cathedrals based on the same principles, believing their stonework mirrored the mind of the divine. At its core, this system revolves around a few powerful shapes. The circle represents unity, wholeness, and the endless cycle of eternity. The square grounds this idea, symbolizing the solidity of the earth, the four directions, and stability. Then there is the triangle, a shape that naturally points upward, embodying aspiration and a connection to the heavens. These forms are not isolated. They are intricately linked through harmonious ratios, like the famous golden ratio, which appears repeatedly in art, architecture, and even nature's own designs. This is why so many ancient temples are precisely aligned with the movements of the sun and stars. Their geometry was a conscious effort to build a bridge, harmonizing human spaces with the perceived order of the cosmos. We see this meticulous planning in the proportions of the Parthenon in Greece and the celestial charts etched into the stones of Chartres Cathedral in France. How is it that cultures separated by vast oceans and thousands of years all arrived at the same geometric truths? This profound convergence suggests a shared human intuition, a deep-seated recognition of a pattern that underlies everything. With this foundational language in mind, the true meaning of the world's ancient monuments begins to come into focus. A lone figure stands beneath a vast, star-filled sky, watching the endless celestial dance. The predictable arcs traced by the sun and moon offered the first and most profound lesson in sacred geometry. The circle became the ultimate symbol of cosmic order, a shape without beginning or end that ancient builders translated directly into their most revered spaces. This was not mere decoration. It was a conscious effort to bring the harmony of the heavens down to earth. From the massive T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, arranged in great stone circles over 11,000 years ago, to the intricate medicine wheels constructed by Native American nations on the plains of North America, we find the same fundamental design. These cultures, separated by continents and millennia, all chose the circle to define their sacred ground. They then went a step further, precisely orienting these circles to capture the rising sun on the longest day of the year or the setting moon at its most extreme point. Stonehenge is the classic example, its concentric rings acting as a permanent astronomical clock. But this principle appears in the circular enclosures of Great Zimbabwe in Africa, structures that likely served both spiritual and practical calendrical roles for the community. Why did this shape hold such universal power? The circle embodies wholeness, the infinite cycle of seasons, and the journey of life itself. Its continuous line mirrors the eternal nature of the cosmos, offering a profound truth that so many disparate cultures arrived at independently. This shared language of the circle forms the first fundamental brushstroke in a global masterpiece. Yet the circle, for all its cosmic perfection, was only half the story. A stable structure needs a foundation, and ancient architects found this in the square. Picture a vast temple complex laid out as a perfect square, its four corners pointing precisely toward the cardinal directions. This shape anchors the structure to the solid earth while its form reaches symbolically for the sky. The square and its three-dimensional form, the cube, came to represent the material world, stability, and the four fundamental elements or directions. It provided a foundational grid for countless sacred sites, a human effort to impose geometric harmony onto the natural landscape. This was the creation of order from chaos. We see this principle etched into the very base of the Great Pyramid of Giza, an almost perfect square oriented with breathtaking accuracy to the 4 points of the compass. We find it in the colossal, raised platforms of Mesopotamian ziggurats, their quadrangular courtyards forming a stairway between the earth and the heavens. Architectural historians note that these proportions were often derived from celestial observations. The Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan, for instance, is not only aligned with the Sun, but its entire grid is thought to be oriented to the Pleiades star cluster. The geometry used was remarkably sophisticated. The diagonal of a square, for example, relates to the mathematical constant known as the square root of 2. This same ratio appears subtly encoded in the dimensions of holy places across the globe, from the Kaaba in Mecca, a cubic structure that is the focal point of Islamic pilgrimage, to the astonishingly planned cities of the Indus Valley, like Mohenjo-Daro, where the entire urban design was a masterwork of sacred geometry. How might this rigid, unwavering form have served as a metaphor for moral order or divine law in these ancient societies? The square's geometric rigor provided a stable, predictable foundation upon which more complex and aspirational symbolic structures could be safely built. Rising from the flat earth to pierce the sky, the pyramid's triangular form is a silent declaration of human aspiration. This is the third principle, the triangle as a bridge between earth and heaven. Its upward thrust is undeniable, a geometric arrow pointing from our world toward the realm of the gods. In traditions across the globe, from the equilateral triangle symbolizing perfect balance to the right-angled triangle forming a stable cornerstone, this shape became a vessel for profound spiritual ideas. It often represented a trinity of forces like creation, preservation, and transformation, a cycle reflected in the natural world. Ancient architects masterfully encoded this symbolism into their most enduring structures. The Great Pyramid of Giza is a perfect example, where its sloping passages were precisely angled to align with the pole star, effectively turning the entire monument into a colossal instrument aimed at the axis of the heavens. This was not just about observing stars, it was about connecting the earthly to the celestial through immutable geometry. The same principle manifests in the stepped pyramids of Cambodia's Angkor Wat, which represent the sacred Mount Meru, the cosmic mountain at the center of the universe in Hindu and Buddhist belief. Even the triangular pediments crowning Greek temples served a dual purpose, providing structural strength while framing the space dedicated to a deity, visually lifting the viewer's gaze toward the divine. What is the secret to the triangle's power? Its geometry naturally embodies stability and ascent, allowing builders to encode precise mathematical ratios that ensured both physical durability and spiritual resonance. The intuitive understanding of principles like the Pythagorean theorem, long before it was formally named, allowed them to create structures that have withstood millennia. This dynamic form channels a universal human yearning for transcendence, a desire to reach beyond our immediate reality that continues to inspire awe in us today. A seashell's spiral unfurls according to a precise mathematical rule, the same one that dictates the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower. This is the golden ratio, a proportion of approximately 1.618, and it appears to be woven into the very fabric of nature itself. Known to mathematicians as phi, this ratio was revered by ancient thinkers as the key to ideal beauty and divine harmony. It is the fourth and perhaps most mysterious principle connecting the world's sacred sites, a silent code for perfection that builders from vastly different cultures seem to understand. The facade of the Parthenon in Greece fits almost perfectly within a golden rectangle, and studies suggest the internal chambers of the Great Pyramid were designed using this same sacred proportion. But was this knowledge intentional, a carefully guarded secret passed between master masons, or was it an intuitive recognition of a pattern that simply feels right to the human spirit? The evidence suggests a profound intuition was at work. The layout of Stonehenge's inner bluestone circle and the floor plan of Chartres Cathedral in France both exhibit dimensions astonishingly close to phi. Some researchers propose that these specific proportions were not chosen just for their visual appeal, but for how they shape space, potentially influencing the way sound resonates within a stone circle or how light falls within a cathedral, creating an environment that feels inherently balanced and charged with meaning. Why does this particular balance between large and small, between one part and the whole, resonate so deeply within us? It points to a hidden order, a universal law of form that the ancients sought to mirror in their temples, effectively building bridges to the cosmos in stone and light. That first ray of sunlight piercing the inner darkness of Newgrange was not an accident. It was the culmination of a precise and sacred science. For the ancient priest astronomers who designed these spaces, geometry was not a static art confined to the earth. It was a dynamic language for conversing with the cosmos itself. They observed the sun's slow dance across the horizon, the moon's rhythmic cycles, and the steady turning of the starry vault, and they encoded this celestial clockwork directly into their architecture. This fifth principle, the alignment of sacred sites with cosmic cycles, reveals that these monuments were designed to capture moments in time, transforming stone into a living calendar. In the high Andes, the Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu, often called the hitching post of the sun, was carved to precisely align with the sun during the solstices, anchoring the sun god in place at these pivotal times of the year. Across the world, the main passage of the Great Pyramid was angled to point directly toward the pole star Thuban, which held the central position in the northern sky over 4,000 years ago. Entire temple complexes, like those at Karnak in Egypt, were laid out along a single axis so that the sun would travel down a corridor of pillars on a specific day, illuminating the inner sanctum in a dramatic display of celestial power. How did they achieve such accuracy over such vast distances? They used the most fundamental tools of geometry, sighting lines and measured angles, to project the order of the heavens onto the landscape. The axis of a temple, the angle of a corridor, the placement of a window, all were calculated using geometric principles to create a permanent, unbreakable link to a specific celestial event. This practice turned the entire structure into a spiritual gateway, a place where the divine rhythm of the universe became visible and tangible for the community. The solstice sunrise at Newgrange, for instance, would have transformed that dark, silent chamber into a radiant, symbolic womb, heralding the promised rebirth of the sun and the coming spring. These alignments did more than mark time. They infused these places with meaning, making them living embodiments of cosmic order. The predictable, eternal cycles of the sky provided a blueprint for harmony, and by building in sync with them, our ancestors believed they were participating in the maintenance of the world itself. Two overlapping circles create a shape of immense power. In the space where they meet, an almond-like form emerges, known to scholars as the Vesica Piscis. This is the sixth principle, a geometric key representing the sacred intersection of the spiritual and the material worlds. It is a universal symbol of creation itself, the primordial womb from which all form is born. This single shape appears with stunning consistency across faiths and continents. You can find it framing the figure of Christ in the stained glass of Gothic cathedrals, its elegant curves forming the outline of the iconic rose window. The same fundamental design governs the intricate floor plans of Hindu temples, where the intersection of circles defines the Garbhagriha, the innermost sanctum that houses the deity. In the breathtaking geometric art of Islamic mosaics, endless patterns unfold from this very same principle of intersecting circles. The Vesica Piscis is far more than a decorative motif. It is a generator of sacred proportion. From its simple form, builders could derive the square root of 3, a ratio that appears repeatedly in the dimensions of holy spaces. This mathematical precision gave the shape its profound symbolic weight, often associated with concepts of duality and union, the divine feminine, and the generative force of the universe. Ancient Mesopotamian cylinder seals depict powerful deities enclosed within this very mandala, or almond-shaped halo, a visual declaration of their presence in the realm between worlds. By studying the described layout of the Temple of Solomon or the intricate sand mandalas of Tibetan Buddhism, a pattern emerges. The sacred space is always at the center, the point of overlap. This is the focal point, the geometric heart where ritual and meditation converge. What does this persistent recurrence tell us? It points to a deep, shared archetype within the human psyche, a universal language for representing the ultimate mystery, the moment spirit takes form. The Vesica Piscis is the silent geometry of connection. A honeycomb reveals nature's own master plan for strength and efficiency, a pattern of perfect hexagons repeated endlessly. This sixfold symmetry is far more than a biological curiosity. It is the seventh principle of our hidden geometric language, a form that ancient builders recognized as a bridge between the earthly and the divine. The hexagon represents a state of perfect balance, a harmonious integration of opposing forces. In its three-dimensional form, the cube, it grounds this balance in the solidity of the material world. Cultures across the globe saw this pattern in the natural order, from the unique structure of every snowflake to the towering basalt columns of the Giant's Causeway. These were not random formations. They were viewed as manifestations of a divine blueprint, a crystalline perfection that sacred architecture sought to emulate. When you walk into an Islamic mosque and gaze upon the intricate tile work covering the walls, you are often looking at an endless field of interlocking hexagons and six-pointed stars. This is not merely decoration. It is a visual representation of infinite divine order, a cosmos without beginning or end. The same geometric thinking shaped the floor plans of certain Byzantine churches, where the central dome is supported by a hexagonal arrangement of pillars, creating a space that feels both unified and uplifted. Even further back in time, some megalithic stone circles in Europe appear to have been arranged with six-fold symmetry in mind. This pattern powerfully embodies the six spatial directions: north, south, east, west, up, and down, effectively mapping the entire cosmos into a single, stable form. Consider the Star of David, a symbol composed of two interlocked triangles. One point reaches for the heavens while the other grounds itself in the earth. This creates a hexagram at its center, a perfect symbol for the synthesis of spirit and matter. A nearly identical symbol, the Shatkona, holds profound meaning in Hinduism, representing the union of the divine masculine and feminine. Why did this specific shape hold such universal appeal? The hexagon offers unparalleled structural stability and spatial efficiency. For a builder, whether of a beehive or a temple, it was the most practical way to create a strong, enduring space. But for the spiritual visionary, that same practical strength made it the ideal vessel for a profound idea, the creation of a sacred space where heaven and earth could truly meet. The hexagon's quiet geometry whispers of a world where function and spirit are one and the same. The Nautilus shell expands in a perfect, unbroken curve, a living testament to the spiral's quiet power. This is our eighth principle, a shape that breathes with life, symbolizing not just movement but profound growth and the evolution of consciousness itself. Unlike the static circle or square, the spiral is inherently dynamic, a path that turns back on itself only to reach a new, expanded level. Ancient cultures saw this pattern everywhere, from the swirling galaxies in the night sky to the unfurling frond of a fern, and they recognized it as a universal map for the soul's journey. At Ireland's Newgrange, deep spiral carvings guard the entrance to the tomb, their stone coils perhaps representing a symbolic portal between worlds or the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Centuries later and across the sea, the great labyrinth set into the floor of Chartres Cathedral offered pilgrims a different kind of passage. Walking its winding, circuitous path was a physical meditation, a miniature pilgrimage meant to quiet the mind and turn one's focus inward. This was geometry you could feel with your feet, a ritual designed to mirror the inner journey toward enlightenment. The spiral's meaning is deeply layered. Some anthropologists propose that the triple spiral at Newgrange might have functioned as a sophisticated lunar calendar, tracking the moon's complex 19-year cycle. In the rock art of indigenous cultures from the American Southwest to Australia, spiral forms are often interpreted as maps of shamanic voyages into other realms of spirit. We see a powerful echo of this in the plumed serpent deities of ancient Mesoamerica, whose coiled bodies adorn the pyramids of Teotihuacan, representing the celestial power that could travel between the earth and the sky. Underlying many of these sacred spirals is a precise mathematical order, often the Fibonacci sequence, where each number is the sum of the two before it. This sequence generates a spiral whose proportions perfectly mirror the golden ratio, creating a form that feels both organically alive and mathematically divine. What was the intended effect of this living geometry on the human spirit? Walking a spiral path, whether physically or with the eye, naturally draws awareness inward. The repetitive turning motion can calm the nervous system and alter one's state of consciousness, easing the walker into a reflective, receptive trance. This was likely the very purpose of the labyrinth, to use sacred geometry as a tool for inner transformation. The spiral's endless curve is an invitation to an eternal journey, a reminder that growth is not a straight line but a sacred, unfolding process. A single line etched into the Peruvian desert stretches for miles, part of a vast and mysterious canvas only visible from the air. This is the ninth principle, the sacred grid, where entire landscapes were transformed into geometric diagrams of cosmic order. Ancient planners did not simply build structures on the land. they integrated their designs with the land itself, using an invisible framework of lines and shapes to connect human creation to the energies of the earth and sky. This practice, known as geomancy, viewed the world as a living body crisscrossed with subtle pathways of force. These so-called ley lines or dragon lines in Chinese tradition were believed to channel the earth's vitality, and sacred sites were meticulously placed at their intersections, turning natural power points into spiritual amplifiers. The sprawling Nazca lines are a breathtaking example, with their immense geometric shapes and animal figures laid out across the plateau as if on a colossal grid. They are not random drawings, but a landscape-scale composition whose long, straight pathways may have functioned as ceremonial processional routes aligned with celestial bodies. This same geomantic intelligence is visible in the foundational plans of great cities. The Forbidden City in Beijing is a masterwork of this philosophy. Its entire layout a perfect rectangle within a rectangle, with gates and palaces arranged along a central north-south axis that symbolically connected the emperor to the celestial pole. This was not just urban planning, it was a ritual act meant to ensure harmony between the human realm and the cosmos. Even the relationship between the three main pyramids at Giza is not haphazard, their positions on the plateau reflecting a sophisticated understanding of spatial geometry that some researchers suggest mirrors the stars in Orion's belt. How did this holistic vision enhance a site's spiritual power? By aligning a temple with a distant mountain peak or orienting a city grid to the flow of an underground stream, geomancers believed they were tapping into a deeper, pre-existing order. They were not imposing their will upon nature, but rather collaborating with it, weaving their sacred geometry into the very fabric of the world. The entire earth, in this view, becomes a temple, and every carefully placed stone or building becomes a note in a silent, harmonious symphony. What might our modern world learn from this ancient wisdom that saw no separation between the built environment and the living planet? The Great Pyramid holds a silent conversation with the universe through a number, pi. Its base perimeter, divided by twice its height, yields a value incredibly close to this fundamental constant, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. This is not likely a coincidence. It is a breathtaking example of the 10th principle, the intentional encoding of mathematical constants into sacred stone. This practice suggests the architects possessed a sophisticated understanding of numbers that they wove into the very fabric of their structures, perhaps as a form of esoteric knowledge preserved for the future. We find this same mathematical language whispered elsewhere. The proportions within Stonehenge's Sarsen circle and the precise layouts of Hindu temple mandapas exhibit relationships to these same universal constants. Even the circular earthworks built by Native American cultures demonstrate a fascination with fundamental geometric ratios. Scholars have long debated the source of this knowledge. Was it painstakingly derived from centuries of celestial observation? Was it considered a form of divine revelation, a glimpse into the mind of the Creator? Or does it point to a deeper, shared root of understanding that has since been lost to time? The consistent appearance of numbers like pi and the square root of 2 across the globe is a powerful clue. The use of pi might have served as a profound symbol, representing the eternal, unbroken cycle of existence, or the mystical unity between the straight line and the perfect curve. Meanwhile, the square root of 2, which naturally emerges from the diagonal of a square, often appears in designs that mark a transition within a sacred space, moving from an outer courtyard to an inner sanctum, symbolizing a shift from one state of being to another. What profound secrets about the nature of reality were these mathematician mystics trying to encapsulate in granite and limestone? These constants are more than just numbers. They are the immutable vocabulary of the cosmos itself, a silent language spoken through the eternal medium of geometry. A mandala is far more than a beautiful image. It is a universal architectural blueprint for the cosmos, a geometric mirror that reflects both the soul and the stars. This 11th principle reveals a stunning truth, that the same concentric, symmetrical design used for meditation in Asia formed the foundational plan for sacred spaces across the globe. At its heart is a single, powerful center point, a symbolic axis mundi from which circles, squares, and gates unfold in perfect order. This pattern creates a sacred microcosm, a small, perfect model of the entire universe. We see this logic embodied in the colossal structure of Borobudur in Indonesia, a temple that is quite literally a massive, walkable mandala. Pilgrims do not simply look at it, they journey through its terraces, moving from the outer realms of desire toward the central, silent dome of enlightenment. This is sacred geometry you can traverse with your own body. The same organizing principle radiates from the Kaaba in Mecca. The holy cubic structure forms the central point, with the ritual of tawaf, the circling of pilgrims, creating a living, human mandala that pulses with devotion. This concentric pattern of holiness is not an Eastern or Western idea, it is a human one. The great rose window of a Gothic cathedral, with its intricate tracery radiating from a central point, is a classic mandala in stained glass, designed to lift the gaze and the spirit toward divine light. Similarly, the Native American medicine wheel, with its central cairn and radiating spokes aligned to the cardinal directions, functions as a mandala etched directly into the earth, harmonizing the individual with the four winds and the great circle of life. Why does this specific geometric arrangement hold such transformative power? Theologians and art historians suggest that by constructing or simply contemplating such a balanced and centered space, the human mind finds a sense of order. The chaos of the outer world is replaced by the serene symmetry of the design, guiding the viewer inward on a path of spiritual integration. The mandala's geometry becomes a silent guide for a profound inner journey, a map that leads you back to your own center while simultaneously connecting you to the cosmic whole. In the end, the circle within a square, the path leading to a central point, is a universal code for wholeness, a silent geometric prayer for unity within and without. 7 is a number that echoes through time, from the 7 classical planets tracked by ancient astronomers to the 7 days structuring our week. This profound symbolism found its perfect expression in geometry, where the heptagon and the 7-pointed star became blueprints for cosmic harmony. The Tower of the Winds in Athens, an ancient marvel functioning as both a sundial and a weather vane, prominently features an octagonal design, yet its deeper symbolic connections often intertwine with the potent legacy of 7-fold systems observed in the wider region. This number was widely understood to represent a state of spiritual completeness, a perfect synthesis of the heavenly triad and the earthly four, merging spirit and matter into a unified whole. We see this principle embodied in the elegant, upward taper of the 7-tiered pagodas found across East Asia, each level representing a step on a spiritual ascent toward enlightenment. Constructing a perfect 7-sided figure with only a compass and straight edge is a famously complex geometric puzzle, which makes its occasional appearance in ancient architectural details all the more significant. This was not a shape one stumbled upon by accident. Its presence hints at a deeply specialized knowledge, a mathematical esoterica reserved for the most sacred of applications. The symbolic power of 7 provided a framework for organizing entire worlds, both seen and unseen. Some researchers suggest the layout of certain ancient cities may have been conceptually divided into 7 ritual sectors, mirroring a celestial order. The classic labyrinth, like the one from ancient Crete, is defined by its 7 concentric pathways, a geometric journey that symbolizes an arduous initiation into life's deepest mysteries. In the intricate tile work of Islamic art, the depiction of the 7 heavens is a recurring theme, using complex star patterns to map a cosmos of layered divine realms. Why did this particular number hold such universal sway across cultures and epochs? Its geometry offers a unique key. The 7-fold pattern resists simple division, creating an inherent dynamism and a sense of aspiring, unfinished perfection. It effectively charts a path, translating the abstract concept of spiritual ascension into a form we can see, walk, and ultimately understand. The geometry of 7 quietly weaves the celestial and the terrestrial into a single, harmonious design. An octagonal baptismal font in a medieval church holds a quiet, profound secret. This 8-sided shape is a geometric mediator, a perfect balance between the square of the earth and the perfect circle of heaven. It represents a state of transition, a sacred threshold between worlds, which is why it appears so frequently in spaces dedicated to spiritual rebirth, from burial monuments to initiation chambers. The octagon's geometry is inherently dynamic. It can be created by rotating a square on its axis or from the elegant intersection of 2 squares, a process that visually embodies the synthesis of opposing principles. This balanced form creates a space that feels both grounded and aspirational, solidly present yet oriented toward the infinite. Architectural theorists point out that its 8 sides allow for multiple axes of orientation, aligning not only with the 4 cardinal directions but also with the intercardinal points, mapping the entire horizon into a single harmonious design. This comprehensive alignment connects the structure to the 8 winds of change in classical philosophy and finds a profound parallel in Buddhism's Noble Eightfold Path, a system for ethical and mental development. We see this principle embodied in the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, an iconic 8-sided structure that stands as a powerful landmark of faith. In the octagonal chapter houses of English cathedrals, monks would gather for contemplation and decision-making within a space designed to elevate their deliberations. The 8-sided towers of Mughal architecture, like those seen in the tombs of emperors, were not just decorative, they were stone symbols of a divinely ordered cosmos. How does this intermediate nature forge a truly sacred space? The octagon does not belong wholly to the earth or the heavens. It exists in the between, a geometric bridge that gently guides the soul from one state of being to another, making it the ideal vessel for humanity's most profound transitions. A perfect 5-pointed star contains a hidden universe of meaning within its elegant lines. This is the 14th principle, the pentagram, and its profound 5-fold symmetry in sacred design. For the ancient Pythagoreans, this figure was a symbol of ultimate perfection, a geometric representation of the human form with arms and legs outstretched, the microcosm reflecting the grand macrocosm of the universe. Constructing this shape with only a compass and straightedge was a test of geometric mastery, as its proportions are intimately tied to the golden ratio. The very act of drawing a pentagram generates phi, that divine proportion, in the relationship between its line segments, making it a living diagram of cosmic harmony. Because of its inherent complexity, its appearance in ancient architecture is rarer and therefore more significant. It was not a shape for common use, but one reserved for initiates who understood its deep symbolic language. This 5-fold pattern was a symbolic container for the fundamental forces of existence. It represented the 5 classical elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, the 5 planets visible to the naked eye, and even the 5 human senses, weaving together the cosmos and human experience into a single, unified emblem. We can glimpse this sacred geometry in the exquisite pentagonal motifs that repeat across Islamic mosaics, their interlocking stars creating an infinite field of spiritual mathematics. In the great rose windows of Gothic cathedrals, the five-petaled design is not merely floral, but a deliberate evocation of this same universal balance, filtering celestial light through a lens of divine order. Some researchers studying megalithic sites have proposed that certain stone circles in Britain were arranged with a pentagonal logic, their key stones marking the invisible points of a giant star upon the landscape. Why would builders go to such extraordinary lengths to encode this challenging form? The pentagram was more than a symbol. It was a tool for contemplation and a shield of spiritual protection. Its continuous, unbroken line was believed to create a boundary against chaos, enclosing a sacred space where the human spirit could safely align with cosmic principles. For those who understood its code, the five-pointed star was a key, a geometric map charting the soul's journey back to its divine source. Its enduring power lies in this perfect, intricate balance, a silent testament to the ancient belief that humanity itself is a living temple, designed according to the same sacred rules that govern the stars. A perfect cube is the manifest world made solid, the square given depth and volume. This three-dimensional form, embodied by the Kaaba in Mecca, stands as one of humanity's most potent spiritual symbols. It is not merely a shape, but a complete cosmic model. Its six faces point unequivocally to the six directions: north, south, east, west, up, and down, mapping the entirety of physical reality into a single, stable geometry. This is why the cube so often defines the innermost sanctum of a temple, the final, silent chamber where the divine presence is believed to dwell. In the ancient Temple of Solomon, this space was the Holy of Holies, a perfect cube overlaid with gold. In Hindu temples, the Garbhagriha, or womb chamber housing the central deity, is frequently a cubical room. These were not just architectural choices, they were theological statements in stone. The cube represented the ultimate grounding of infinite spirit into a defined, tangible space, a sacred container for the uncontainable. The geometry involved is profound. The cube is intimately linked to the sphere through the ancient philosophical challenge of squaring the circle, a symbolic endeavor to unite the celestial perfection of the sphere with the earthly stability of the cube. Furthermore, the proportions of cubical spaces often resonate with fundamental mathematical ratios. The king's chamber within the Great Pyramid is a stunning example, its dimensions forming a nearly perfect double cube, a shape long associated with acoustic harmony and spiritual resonance in esoteric traditions. What is the experience of standing within such a space? The perfect symmetry and clear boundaries of a cube create a profound sense of order and stillness. There is no ambiguity, no distracting complexity, just a serene and focused environment that naturally turns awareness inward. This geometric purity seems to quiet the mind, making it the ideal vessel for deep meditation or communion. Across faiths and millennia, the cube's unwavering form has served as the ultimate anchor, a geometric declaration that the divine is not only in the heavens, but is also present here, grounded in the stable, sacred geometry of our world. Within the silent lines of a single diagram lies the entire cosmos. The Sri Yantra is perhaps the most sophisticated expression of sacred geometry ever conceived, a mesmerizing composition of 9 interlocking triangles encircled by lotus petals and protective squares. This is not a static image but a dynamic map of creation itself, a spiritual technology designed to guide consciousness from the world of form back to its formless source. The 4 upward-pointing triangles represent the masculine divine consciousness, while the 5 downward-pointing triangles embody the feminine divine energy. Their precise intersections generate a cascade of 43 smaller triangles, each one a stage in the unfolding of the universe from a single, unmanifest point at its center. To meditate upon this intricate pattern is to visually trace the entire process of cosmic evolution and involution. This profound use of geometry as a meditational tool is a universal phenomenon. The intricate sand paintings created by Navajo healers during ceremonial practices are temporary universes built grain by grain to restore harmony and health. These complex designs, rich with symbolic figures and geometric borders, are understood as living entities that channel spiritual power for the purpose of healing and community well-being. Similarly, the cosmograms drawn in traditions from Central Africa to the Americas often feature a cross within a circle, a simple yet profound diagram that maps the cosmos and the individual's place within it. Even the labyrinth set into the floor of Chartres Cathedral, which we walked earlier, functions as a simplified but powerful geometric diagram for an inner journey. Scholars of comparative religion observe that the very act of constructing these patterns is a sacred ritual. The careful placement of each line, the mindful repetition of a shape, this focused labor aligns the creator's mind with the perceived order of the universe. It is a form of prayer without words, where the hands enact what the spirit seeks to understand. What does our enduring ability to create and comprehend such intricate designs reveal about us? It suggests an innate human capacity to translate the most abstract cosmic truths into a tangible, visual language. The Sri Yantra, in all its glorious complexity, is a universe in miniature, a silent geometric symphony that invites us to find the infinite within the confines of a single, perfect form. A single, standardized unit of measurement could have been the secret key that unlocked this global geometric language. This is the 17th principle, the profound role of metrology, where abstract geometry was given a physical ruler. Researchers like Alexander Thom proposed the existence of a megalithic yard, a unit of approximately 2.72 modern feet, which he believed was used to construct stone circles across Britain and Brittany with breathtaking consistency. The idea is staggering that disparate cultures separated by oceans might have all been building with the same invisible tape measure. This was not mere convenience. These ancient units were likely derived from the human body or the planet itself, the Egyptian cubit based on the length of a forearm, the Roman foot speaking for itself. These were not arbitrary lengths, they were sacred measures born from the proportions of nature and the cosmos. The Great Pyramid's base perimeter, measured in Egyptian royal cubits, is a telling number 920, a figure with deep astronomical significance. When you convert the dimensions of Stonehenge's Sarsen circle into these proposed megalithic yards, a similar harmonic coherence emerges, as if both structures were tuned to the same silent frequency. How could such standardization exist across millennia? It suggests a shared source knowledge, a foundational canon of sacred mathematics that guided master builders worldwide. This common metrology would have been essential for encoding complex astronomical cycles and harmonic ratios into stone. A builder in Egypt and a builder in England, using their own local version of a sacred cubit, could independently construct monuments that hummed with the same geometric and spiritual resonance. The use of these units transformed the architect's blueprint into a living, breathing reality that was not only physically imposing but also spiritually potent. The consistent repetition of these sacred dimensions across continents points less to a single lost civilization and more to a universal human intuition, a deep-seated recognition that to build in harmony with the universe, you first need to measure it correctly. The ruler itself became a sacred object, a tangible link between the infinite world of number and the finite world of human creation. these winding paths etched into stone and earth are far more than simple puzzles. The classical seven-circuit labyrinth, with its single, unbroken route, represents the 18th principle, the geometric embodiment of a profound spiritual journey. You cannot get lost in a true labyrinth. Its purpose is not to confuse, but to guide you on a deliberate, meditative walk toward a central goal, and then back out again into the world transformed. This universal design, found on coins from ancient Crete, carved into rock faces in India, and laid into the floors of great European cathedrals, uses a constrained geometry to create a powerful experience of pilgrimage. The design masterfully integrates circles, spirals, and often a subtle cruciform shape, weaving them into a single path that forces a slow, contemplative pace. This is geometry you do not just see, you feel it with your entire body as you walk. At Chartres Cathedral, medieval pilgrims would traverse the vast labyrinth on their knees, each physical step mirroring an inner journey toward grace. In the green hills of Scandinavia, turf labyrinths were the sites of folk rituals and dances, their patterns guiding community celebration and connection to the cycles of nature. Anthropologists note that the very act of walking this repetitive, turning path has a profound effect on the human mind. The rhythmic motion, the focus on the next step, and the surrender to the path's inevitable course can lull the conscious mind into a quiet, trance-like state. This altered state of consciousness opens a door to deep introspection and unexpected insight, a psychological effect recognized from the mystery cults of Minoan Crete to the walking meditations of modern spiritual retreats. Why does this specific geometric arrangement hold such universal power for personal transformation? The labyrinth removes the burden of choice. There are no dead ends, no wrong turns, only a single prescribed path forward. This constraint is not a limitation, but a liberation. It frees the walker from everyday anxiety and logic, allowing the subconscious to rise to the surface. The geometry itself becomes a trusted guide, a silent promise that every twist and turn, no matter how confusing it seems in the moment, is part of a meaningful whole leading to a sacred center. The labyrinth transforms a simple walk into a ritual, proving that the most profound journeys are often those taken within. The silent stones themselves were designed to sing. Step into the echoing vastness of a Gothic cathedral or the cramped confines of the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber, and you step into a carefully tuned instrument. The geometry of these spaces was not just for the eyes, it was for the ears, engineered to amplify and shape sound into a tangible, spiritual force. Ancient builders understood a profound secret, that the mathematical ratios governing pleasing musical intervals were the same ones that defined harmonious architecture. A room built with the proportions of a perfect fifth or a major third would naturally resonate with those frequencies, turning the entire structure into a colossal amplifier for chant, drum, or prayer. This is the union of sound and stone, a practice modern researchers call archaeoacoustics. In places like Malta's hypogeum, an underground labyrinth carved from solid rock, specific chambers are tuned to a frequency that creates a powerful, bone-shaking resonance. The sound of a voice can be felt as much as heard, swirling around the room in a cascade of echoes that seems to come from everywhere at once. How did they discover this? It was likely through meticulous observation and an intuitive grasp of natural law. The same Pythagorean principles that describe the vibrating string of a lyre also govern the standing waves within a stone chamber. By constructing spaces with precise dimensions and using specific materials, they could amplify the ritual sounds meant to facilitate a connection with the divine. The reverberations within a temple could synchronize the heartbeats of a congregation, calm the mind into a meditative state, or even induce a mild trance, making the sacred geometry an active participant in the ceremony. Sound gives form a voice, and in these hallowed spaces, that voice was a bridge to the unseen, vibrating through the very stones and the human soul alike. A single street in an ancient city can be a deliberate line of celestial force. When we zoom out from individual temples to view entire urban landscapes, a breathtaking pattern emerges. Cities like Mexico's Teotihuacan were not merely collections of buildings, they were vast, functioning macro-temples meticulously designed according to sacred geometry. The entire metropolis was laid out as a cosmic diagram, with its central avenue, the Avenue of the Dead, precisely aligned with the setting of the Pleiades star cluster. This was not urban planning in the modern sense, it was geomancy on a grand scale, an attempt to build heaven on earth. The colossal pyramid of the sun and the pyramid of the moon were not isolated structures, they were integral points within this immense geometric grid, their positions and proportions carefully calculated to reflect a spiritual and social hierarchy. The same principle governed the Forbidden City in Beijing, a perfect rectangular enclosure within a larger rectangle, its palaces and gates arranged along a powerful north-south axis that symbolically connected the emperor, the son of heaven, directly to the celestial pole. Every wall, every gate, and every courtyard was a chapter in a geometric text, encoding spiritual teachings and the proper order of the community into the very streets people walked each day. This concept of the city as a sacred mandala appears across the globe. Historians studying urban design note that the original circular layout of Baghdad, known as the Round City, was a perfect geometric expression of cosmic unity, with its concentric rings of walls and radial streets emanating from the central mosque and palace complex. Even the highly practical grid of a Roman military camp, or castrum, was more than just efficient. Its two main streets, the Cardo and Decumanus, crossed at right angles, dividing the camp into four quadrants that mirrored the Roman understanding of a four-part cosmos. How would it have felt to live within such a consciously ordered space? The daily rhythm of life was constantly reinforced by this sacred geometry. Walking from a residential quarter toward the central temple precinct was not just a physical journey, it was a symbolic ascent toward the divine. The alignment of main gates with the sunrise on a solstice would have transformed the entire city into a seasonal clock, marking time with celestial drama. This holistic design sought to ensure harmony between the human community, the natural world, and the divine realm, weaving the sacred into the fabric of everyday existence. What might our modern, often chaotic urban environments learn from this ancient wisdom that saw the city not as a machine for living, but as a living embodiment of cosmic order? Stone and shadow perform a silent dance that marks the passage of the seasons. This is the 21st principle, where sacred geometry transcends its static form to become a dynamic interplay of light and time. Ancient builders were masters of solar geometry, designing their structures to catch the sun's rays in very specific ways, transforming solid monuments into living calendars and celestial theaters. At Chichen Itza during the equinox, the setting sun casts a series of triangular shadows down the steps of the El Castillo pyramid, creating the stunning illusion of a feathered serpent slithering toward the earth. This was no accident, it was a meticulously calculated effect, a piece of architectural magic that brought a foundational myth to life before the eyes of the community. This sophisticated manipulation of light and shadow appears across the ancient world. Deep within Egypt's temple of Abu Simbel, sunlight penetrates the dark interior only 2 days a year, illuminating the statues of gods seated in the inner sanctum. In Ireland's Newgrange, a narrow roof box above the entrance captures the rising sun on the winter solstice, flooding the central chamber with a beam of light that travels along a stone passage to illuminate cryptic spiral carvings. How did they achieve such precision? They used the most fundamental tools of geometry, calculating angles and designing apertures so that the sun itself would become a participant in their rituals. This practice served a profound dual purpose. On a practical level, these light effects marked the solstices and equinoxes with unerring accuracy, dictating the timing for planting, harvest, and ceremonial cycles. But on a spiritual level, they created an unforgettable experience. To witness a dark chamber suddenly filled with a brilliant shaft of light, or to see a stone pyramid come alive as a descending serpent, was to see the divine made manifest. This ephemeral magic reinforced the sacred narratives of the culture and demonstrated the priest's unique ability to commune with the cosmic order. The geometry of light and shadow animated the stones with the very rhythm of time itself, proving that the most sacred truths are often those written not in stone but in light. A story of creation can be told without a single word, written instead in the silent language of lines and angles. The grand myths that defined entire cultures, the epic tales of cosmic battles and spiritual journeys, were often encoded directly into the very floor plans of their temples. These structures were far more than places of gathering. They were three-dimensional expressions of a people's entire worldview, a sacred geometry that gave mathematical form to the mysteries of existence. In the traditional layout of a Hindu temple, we can trace the outline of the cosmic giant Purusha. Each part of the temple complex corresponds to a part of his divine body, from the base of the platform representing his feet to the tallest spire, the Shikhara, symbolizing his head reaching toward the infinite. To walk through this space was to traverse the body of creation itself. Similarly, the sprawling complex of Karnak in Egypt is a geometric enactment of the myth of Osiris. Its axis from the sacred lake to the inner sanctum charts the sun god's journey through the underworld and his triumphant rebirth at dawn. The placement of pylons, courtyards, and obelisks creates a ritual pathway that mirrors this celestial drama, turning every procession into a reenactment of cosmic renewal. What we are seeing is a universal human impulse to build the stories that matter most. Comparative studies reveal that creation myths from vastly different traditions often share a common geometric grammar. Many describe the universe emerging from a single, central point, a concept perfectly visualized in the Mandala's Bindu. Others speak of a primordial unity dividing into a sacred duality, a theme elegantly expressed through the Vesica Piscis or the balancing of circles and squares. The monumental stupa of Borobudur is a masterclass in this narrative geometry. Its ascending terraces do not simply lead upward, they chart the entire path of the Buddha's life and his teachings on the stages toward enlightenment. A pilgrim's physical climb is a symbolic journey through these spiritual realms. Even the ziggurats of ancient Mesopotamia used their stark, stepped geometry to represent the cosmic mountain, a ladder between the human world and the domain of the gods. When we learn to read this geometric language, these silent stones begin to speak. The proportions of a column, the alignment of a gate, the sequence of chambers, all become syllables in a forgotten epic. What profound truths about our shared human experience are waiting to be rediscovered, not in dusty scrolls, but in the enduring geometry of our most sacred spaces? The geometric code of the ancients did not vanish with the last standing stone. It found new life in the quiet halls of later esoteric traditions, where it was preserved not in stone but in symbol and secret teaching. The mystery schools of ancient Greece, for example, taught that geometric forms were the pure language of the soul, a means to comprehend the architecture of the cosmos. Plato himself famously declared that God eternally geometrizes, and his vision of a universe built from perfect geometric solids resonated through the ages. This idea flowed into the intricate diagrams of the Jewish Kabbalah, where the tree of life stands as a profound geometric map. Its 10 Sephiroth, or divine emanations, are connected by 22 paths, creating a symbolic structure that describes the descent of spirit into matter and the soul's potential journey back to its source. This was not mere philosophy, it was a living system of spiritual navigation. Similarly, within the mystical Sufi orders of Islam, sacred geometry became a central focus for meditation. Complex patterns of interlocking circles and stars, reminiscent of the tilework in great mosques, were used as visual aids to still the mind and lead the practitioner toward a direct experience of divine unity. The same principles re-emerged with tremendous force during the European Renaissance, where Hermetic philosophers and alchemists pored over ancient texts. They saw in geometry the key to unlocking the hidden laws of nature and the human spirit. For them, the compass and the square were not just tools for drafting, they were emblems of cosmic order, representing the harmonious balance between the spiritual and material worlds. This symbolic toolkit was inherited and further refined by later movements like the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons. The Masonic square and compasses, displayed so prominently, are direct descendants of the ancient builder's art, representing moral virtues and the aspiration to build a perfected inner self. Even towering scientific minds like Johannes Kepler and Isaac Newton were deeply immersed in this tradition. Kepler's quest to understand the orbits of the planets was driven by his belief in a celestial geometry based on the 5 Platonic solids. Newton spent decades studying alchemical and biblical prophecy, convinced that a hidden geometric code underpinned all of scripture and nature. How did the practical knowledge of ancient builders become the foundation for centuries of mystical thought? These esoteric systems acted as a continuous underground stream, carrying the principles of sacred geometry forward. They translated the monumental language of pyramids and circles into diagrams for personal enlightenment, using the same ratios and shapes to chart the inner landscape of the human soul. The flame of this ancient knowledge was kept burning not in the open air, but in the quiet chambers of seekers who understood that the truest temples are those we build within. The language of the ancients is now being decoded by the tools of modern science. What was once considered mystical intuition is increasingly revealed as a profound understanding of universal patterns, patterns that science now confirms are woven into the very fabric of reality. Fractal geometry shows us that the branching of a tree, the forking of a river delta, and the intricate structure of our own lungs all follow the same self-repeating mathematical code. This is the very same principle of infinite complexity born from simple rules that we see in the recursive patterns of Hindu temple towers or the endless repetition of geometric motifs in Islamic art. The natural world is a living testament to sacred geometry. The golden ratio dictates the elegant spiral of a nautilus shell, the arrangement of leaves on a stem for maximum sun exposure, and even the proportions of the human face we instinctively find beautiful. Biologists find the Fibonacci sequence, that same series of numbers that defines the sacred spiral, governing the seed head of a sunflower and the branching of a pine cone. Meanwhile, physicists observe that the 5 Platonic solids, those perfectly symmetrical forms revered by Plato, may describe the underlying structure of the universe itself, from the organization of quarks to the large-scale foam of galaxy clusters. Cymatics, the study of visible sound, provides one of the most striking validations. When sand or water is placed on a metal plate and subjected to specific sound frequencies, the particles instantly arrange themselves into intricate geometric mandalas, stars, and hexagons. This demonstrates that sound, an invisible force, creates tangible geometric order, a principle ancient builders seem to have understood when they designed chambers to resonate with specific chants and frequencies. This convergence of ancient wisdom and hard data is forcing a dramatic rethink of our past. Advanced satellite imagery and laser scanning now allow researchers to map sacred sites with incredible precision, confirming that monuments separated by thousands of miles often share uncanny geometric and astronomical alignments. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance, is geometrically linked to Stonehenge and the sacred Mount of Arunachala in India through Great Circle routes, suggesting a prehistoric world map written in stone. Even more intriguing are studies into the subtle energy fields at these locations. Geophysicists have detected unusual electromagnetic anomalies and heightened natural magnetic activity at sites like Stonehenge and the Karnak stone rows. The specific geometry of the stones appears to amplify the Earth's own magnetic field, potentially affecting brainwave patterns and creating the profound sense of awe and connection so many visitors report. This is not magic but physics, offering a plausible explanation for the perceived spiritual power of these places. So what does this mean for us today? This rediscovery is not just an academic exercise, it has real-world applications. Architects are now designing hospitals and homes using harmonic proportions to reduce stress and promote healing. Ecologists are applying fractal principles to restore damaged ecosystems. Medical researchers are exploring how sound waves shaped by sacred geometry might one day target diseased cells. The ancient geomancers were not just building temples, they were tapping into a fundamental operating system for reality. Science is finally catching up, speaking the same timeless language, and in doing so, it is returning to us a lost piece of our own heritage, a key to understanding both the universe and our profound place within it. That profound feeling of peace inside a cathedral or the sudden awe under a pyramid's shadow is a real, measurable phenomenon. Our minds are deeply wired to respond to the language of shape and proportion. The symmetry, balance, and harmonic order found in sacred geometry do not just please the eye, they calm the nervous system. Environmental psychologists have found that environments rich in these coherent patterns can significantly lower stress, reduce mental fatigue, and enhance our capacity for concentration. It seems our brains have a natural preference for this kind of order, an innate recognition of a pattern that feels fundamentally right. This field, known as neuroarchitecture, explores how building design directly influences our brain waves and emotional states. Spaces built with sacred geometric principles appear to create an ideal container for meditation and prayer, subtly guiding the brain away from chaotic, scattered thought and toward a more unified, peaceful awareness. This is why the repetitive geometric patterns in Islamic mosaics or the soaring vaults of a Gothic nave can feel so effortlessly transcendent. They are providing the mental scaffolding for a transcendent experience. Modern research into fractals offers a powerful example. The same self-repeating patterns seen in ancient Hindu temple designs are found throughout nature, in ferns, clouds, and coastlines. Studies show that viewing these natural fractals lowers stress levels by up to 60%. Our minds relax when they encounter this familiar, complex order. The specific proportions of a Gothic cathedral, its ratios based on the square root of 2 or the golden mean, may actually induce a physiological sense of sublimity, a feeling of being in the presence of something vastly greater than oneself. Think of a time you stood in a beautifully designed building, perhaps a library with a perfect domed ceiling or a simple garden laid out with geometric precision. How did the space make you feel? More focused, more serene? That is your consciousness resonating with an ancient universal code. Sacred geometry is not just an architectural style, it is a technology for shaping human awareness, a quiet conversation between form and feeling that has been guiding our inner world for millennia. This ancient knowledge is not locked away in stone, waiting only for scholars to decipher it. You can begin to learn its language with nothing more than a pencil, a compass, and a moment of quiet focus. Start with the simple act of drawing the seed of life, a pattern of 7 interlocking circles that forms the core of the vast flower of life. As your hand guides the compass, you are not just making a design, you are participating in a ritual of creation that echoes across millennia. This simple practice can become a moving meditation, calming the mind as you witness a universe of complexity emerge from a single, perfect shape. You can extend this exploration into your daily walks. Look up at the local architecture. Does the courthouse have a domed roof? Does the older church in town feature a rose window? You will start to see the principles of sacred geometry embedded in the buildings you pass every day, a hidden order in plain sight. For a deeper, more personal connection, try creating your own mandala. This does not require artistic mastery. Begin with a circle, then divide it, add patterns, and let your intuition guide you. The process of building a symmetrical design from a central point is profoundly centering, a silent conversation between your inner world and the universal patterns of harmony. Many find that this practice unlocks a wellspring of creativity and offers a tangible sense of connecting to a larger cosmic tapestry. Your own backyard can become a classroom. Examine the head of a sunflower and count the spirals turning in opposite directions. They will almost always be consecutive numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. Hold a snowflake on your glove and marvel at its impossible six-fold perfection. Nature is the original master of this art, and by observing it, you are learning from the source. If you wish to go further, a wealth of resources awaits. Beautifully illustrated books can guide you through the history and symbolism, while online courses offer structured paths into the mathematics and meditation practices associated with these forms. Perhaps the most powerful step is to visit a local sacred site, whether it is a historic cathedral, a Native American earthwork, or a stone circle. Stand in the center and simply feel the space. Notice how the sound travels, how the light falls, and how the geometry of the place shapes your own awareness. You can bring this intention into your own living space. The arrangement of furniture in a room can follow a more harmonious layout. The design of a garden can incorporate spiraling paths or beds laid out with cardinal directions in mind. These are not just aesthetic choices, they are conscious acts of placing yourself within a field of balanced energy. The journey into sacred geometry is ultimately a journey inward, a way of retuning your perception to notice the underlying coherence of the world. It is an invitation to see the universe not as a random collection of objects, but as a magnificent, interconnected whole, whispering its secrets in the silent language of form. From the circles of Stonehenge to the pyramids of Giza, we have journeyed through a hidden language. This geometric code reveals a tapestry of interconnected knowledge, a shared heritage spanning continents and millennia. We have witnessed how simple shapes encode profound cosmic principles, how alignment with the heavens transforms silent stone into a living calendar, and how this sacred geometry continues to influence the human mind and spirit. The recurring themes are impossible to ignore: a universal yearning for unity, harmony, and a tangible connection to the cosmic order. Our ancestors, it seems, possessed a deep, intuitive understanding of the universe's underlying structure, a wisdom that modern science is only now beginning to measure and appreciate. As you move forward from this exploration, try to look at the world with new eyes. Notice the perfect symmetry in a spider's web, the cardinal grid of a city's downtown, or the spiral arm of a distant galaxy. These are not mere coincidences, they are echoes of the same geometric code, a living bridge to our collective human heritage. This understanding invites a profound shift in perspective, encouraging us to see the connections where we once saw only separation. I would love to hear your own thoughts and experiences. Have you ever felt a deep sense of peace in a geometrically designed space, or noticed these patterns in your own observations of the world? Please share your stories in the comments below. If this journey into the mysteries of our past has resonated with you, consider subscribing for more voyages into the hidden layers of history. The geometric language of the ancients is a timeless invitation, a quiet whisper reminding us to look closer and see the essential unity in all